don't take public transit, but does your day rely on people who do? Would you know if it did? We take a look at what happens and who is hit hardest when you take away a ride to work. Denver shifts its COVID-19 testing strategy. Now, this is debatable, but is there any Coloradan waiting to make up their mind based on tonight's presidential debate? Looking at how many undecideds are really out there. His name is Journey, and his path to getting parents, it has certainly been one. And we have entered moose mating season, which might explain what's happening to this Mercedes. All that is next. Take away your ride from work, and that is a pretty immediate issue for you. Now take away 100,000 people's rides to work, and that could become a crisis for the metro area. It's time to talk about who exactly is going to be impacted by RTD's cutbacks, who gets stranded, what that means for our economy and society. Tonight, RTD's elected board is expected to approve a $315,000 contract for the new CEO, while they also consider hundreds of layoffs and reduced service for years. Our Steve Steger looks at new research showing the cutbacks worsening disparities in Colorado.
In Denver, the effects would be really severe. For all intents and purposes, this would change the character of the city.
Ben Freed and his nonprofit Transit Center Advocacy Group looked at what would happen if transit systems across the country had to keep cutting because of COVID.
The pandemic has really caused a once-in-a-century crisis for transit in this country. Agencies are losing ridership, they're losing tax revenue, the bottom is falling out from their budgets.
They modeled service cuts and used census data. They found nearly 96,000 people would lose access to frequent, full-time transit service.
Transit is really a lifeline for people with lower incomes.
The study found an estimated 6,800 households would be especially impacted because they don't have access to a vehicle. And the disparities here are wide. 13% of black riders would lose access to service, though only 5% of people in the Denver metro area are black. Other non-white and Hispanic riders would lose 54% of their service, the model suggests, despite only making up 36% of the region.
When we cut back on transit, we're disproportionately hurting not only the black and brown members of our community, but also hurting the economy that they really are supporting, that we all depend on.
Jill Locantori with the Denver Streets Partnership knows where your mind is going. RTD already had financial trouble before the pandemic, but she says COVID dug a deeper hole, and RTD doesn't have the dirt or shovels to fill it in.
They can shift some money around and get cost efficiencies, but that's only going to have a marginal impact. Really, we need emergency relief funding from the federal government to get back to the level of service that our community needs.
For Next, I'm Steve Steger.
RTD and several other transit agencies are asking the federal government for billions of dollars in funding to get through the pandemic and to restore their service cuts. RTD said that it's trying to refocus its routes to serve people who are dependent on public transit. So Denver's going to do patio season all year long. The snowy furniture photos, those will be unfortunate. But if it means that restaurants and breweries have a better chance to stay in business, well then hand me a big old faux fur coat and call me Mr. B, and let's spend the winter eating and drinking outdoors, shall we? The city has extended its temporary outdoor dining program through October of next year. It was scheduled to end next month. So this means that restaurants and other businesses in the city that have taken over city streets and sidewalks for outdoor dining and such, they can request to keep doing that clear through the winter. 330 restaurants are currently in on that outdoor action, and we'll see how many of them want to make a go at dining al fresco clear through the cold winter. So tomorrow is going to be the last day for Colorado's largest free COVID-19 testing site. Denver's public health experts are asking college students in particular to please come out to the Pepsi Center site tomorrow before they close that at the end of the day. Site will be open from 8 to 4, and after that, Denver's going to transition to smaller testing sites throughout the community. Colorado's COVID-19 daily case counts are headed down from where they were a week ago. Yesterday, Colorado saw 429 new cases. That lowered our 7-day average to about 537 a day. So it's better than where we were last week. Still a significant jump from where we were 2 weeks ago before we headed up that hill. We focus on hospitalizations more than cases, though, because that highlights the most seriously impacted people. There are 174 people currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in Colorado. That number is down 3 patients from yesterday, yet it's up almost 30 patients a day from where we were last week. 7-day average for hospitalizations is over 172, and it was 144 a week ago. Then we look at positivity. This tells us what cases we're finding in the community versus how many we're missing. So yesterday, 3.46% of tests came back positive. 7-day moving average, touch above that at 3.6%. The number's been climbing during the back half of September, though it has plateaued off in recent days. The first of 3 presidential debates begins at 7 o'clock tonight. The obvious winner of that debate will be the person that you're voting for, clearly. Unless you're one of those elusive undecided voters. I don't know any, but I also don't have many friends. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger has many more friends than I do, and also talked with a pollster who still doesn't believe there are that many undecideds out there, Marshall.
I feel like that needs a truth test automatically. We've talked often with David Flaherty of Magellan Strategies in Louisville, a conservative-leaning pollster. He's been asking Colorado voters for weeks questions about which presidential candidate they support. And through that polling, he has discovered how many voters may still be undecided for president, and that is a whopping 9%. That means, based on his research, just 1 in 10 of you watching tonight could be swayed.
We get the math here by doing internal surveys. We're constantly asking likely voters in Colorado in the election for president, who would you vote for? We have a very standard, unbiased way of asking that question. So we have a lot of data here internally at our shop. So we see it's around 9%, 8 or 9%, high single digits tops. But it's been that way, Marshall, for a very long time. I mean, it's been that rock solid really since the beginning of August.
What is a good question to ask voters tomorrow after watching this tonight?
Did you learn anything that caused you to change your mind or become undecided? Many don't just hop into, I'm definitely now in the other candidate's camp overnight. So I would ask, did you change your mind or did you become undecided after watching the debate tonight?
Flaherty also told me that a small sample of older Joe Biden supporters have shown concern for Biden's age and that they may make a decision based on their support or not of his running mate, Senator Kamala Harris. Biden is 77, would be 78 come Inauguration Day. President Trump is 74. I don't necessarily know how those mesh when one side will say they're concerned and they want to learn more about the vice presidential candidate, but the other side not weighing in on that.
Both youthful and vigorous men in their mid to late 70s. So, Marshall, I want to ask you about another thing that's come up with tonight's debates, because I have watched you moderate some debates. I turn my head very slightly to the side as you sit next to me, and I watch how it's actually done by a professional. And you see Chris Wallace of Fox News, who I personally think is a very talented and good interviewer, has said tonight that he does not want to fact-check the candidates in real time. I understand the idea of not wanting the debate to become a back and forth between the moderator and the candidate, but there's also risk in just letting somebody lie their face off on television.
It's going to put a lot of pressure on reporters like me after the debate if there's so much said that needs clarification. But that's something I feel like we've done well in previous debates, is that our knowledge base can push back and say, well, no, either this is true, what do you have to say about that, or this is the case, or you said this. Maybe there's a concern that that would have to happen often, and then that would take away from the debate. But I can't see something glaring as a false statement just go ignored by the moderator.
I think you just said, in the most polite, professional, trademark Marshall way, what if they lie too much to let you fact check them? I like how you said that, though. You can always say these things so diplomatically. Hey, speaking of watching Marshall Zellinger professionally moderate a debate, he will be doing so in October. Next presents The Race for the Senate, a debate here on 9 News. October 13th, it is Republican Senator Cory Gardner and Democratic challenger John Hickenlooper on stage at CSU. This is a nationally watched race. Control of the Senate could hinge on this race. It airs at 6 o'clock in place of next. It's an hour-long broadcast. It will be seen from corner to corner of Colorado thanks to our partner stations across the state. Marshall and I will be moderating that commercial-free debate 2 weeks from today.
It's just been her and I for a long time. And then, I don't know, he stole our hearts.
Some families are born of blood. Others are made with love. His path to parents ends today. And the Moose and the Mercedes, a Colorado love story. Sort of. Expensive for sure. Next. I hope that you're not being too hard on yourself lately, but if you need a reason to feel good, you filled the food banks of the San Luis Valley. $77,000 worth of donations from Next viewers in our weekly Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign. $77,000 to stock up the food in those 15 small food banks that are spread out across that rural part of Colorado, where, as we discussed, the need is really great. 1 in 4 people in the valley use those food banks. It came through in such a big way. The nonprofit that runs those food banks told me that they often feel kind of forgotten by and disconnected from people on the Front Range and the rest of Colorado. Well, they don't feel that way this week. So I hope that really makes you feel great no matter what else is going on in your life. You're doing big things. I mean, $5 donation after $5 donation has piled up and reached a amount of more than $800,000 contributed since June. I'll have another idea of where we can help tomorrow.
A little smoke and haze this afternoon, but a warmer day. Temperatures in the lower 80s this afternoon. A nice recovery after the cooler weather on Sunday and Monday. There's another front approaching Colorado from the north. Unfortunately, it's a dry front. All of the moisture is off to the east of us. And so with high pressure as our dominant feature, a lot of smoke in California, a little smoke and haze along the Front Range and eastern plains, and temperatures very comfortable and very fall-like. In Denver for tonight, fair skies and 45. Tomorrow, temperatures a smidge cooler with that dry front at 74, but that's seasonal. 60s on Thursday, close to 80 Friday, and beautiful weather for the first weekend in October. Temperatures soaring back into the upper 70s on Sunday and low 80s next Monday.
So next skips the random crime stories that fill the other newscasts, but we have been closely following the case of the Moose on Mercedes attack in Boulder County. It was rut-induced road rage, and as they say on the TV news, it was all caught on tape. Well, the car's owner, Jake, just got the bill for this encounter. $3,200 in antler scratches and hoof dents. This feels like one of those insurance commercials, you know, where they list all the bizarre claims that they've ever seen. And Jake is covered. The Moose just cost him his $750 deductible. Yes, every kid is special, but a lot of them are pretty similar.
He's just a happy kid, you know, until nap time. He doesn't like to take a nap.
We'll introduce you to a boy named Journey, whose own journey has been a winding path that ends with a mom and a dad. That's next. Conversation at church 3 years ago changed a family. Created one, you might even say. A baby was about to be born with no home. Our Katie Eastman, along with photojournalist Chris Hansen, introduced us to that couple from church who decided they had room in their hearts and in their home.
Not many people look forward to their day in court. But Marion and Gary Williams aren't like most people. They raised kids, coped with the loss of one, and watched others grow up. For a while now, their Commerce City home has been quiet.
There we go.
Quiet.
Journey.
Until Journey arrived.
Yeah.
Journey, you ready to ride your tricycle? He just brought a lot of love to the house. From the time he gets up in the morning
Whoa.
to the time he goes to bed,
Journey got this.
we have to keep up with him.
It took Gary a day to think about taking in a baby from a mom who was pregnant in prison.
We've had him since birth, and he's just a blessing to us.
Mommy, you're funny.
Marion didn't have to think at all.
I just didn't. I just knew I wanted him.
It's just been her and I for a long time. I don't know, he stole our hearts. Great job.
Most people don't become parents in their 60s.
I guess because I love him so much. And he's just my joy.
But when hearts get stolen, it's hard to take them back. This day in court makes that decision 3 years ago final.
The Williams have appeared today in person and the court has heard their sworn testimony.
This day in court makes the adoption final.
and now his name is Journey Ray Williams.
Yes!
I'm signing this Mr. Ray's date.
The future looks different from what Marion and Gary had planned. Days of quiet, given up for days with their son.
We're just truly happy. And we've just been waiting for this day, and finally it's here.
For Next, I'm Katie Eastman.
Gary and Marion told us that their son's biological mom is now out of prison, and she'll continue to be part of his life. They asked us to acknowledge that today's joy for them does not come without heartbreak for others. So there are these blissful little pockets of Colorado where you can't get cell service, places where you can escape, and sometimes, right in the middle of nowhere, you stumble on a phone booth. That and your feedback next. You ever find yourself in the middle of a hike in the mountains and you just really need a phone booth? Me neither. But a next viewer named Melissa noted that you will not run into that problem near Alta Lakes outside Telluride. That is a straight-up, old-timey looking London-style phone booth practically in the middle of nowhere. So we had to know the backstory on this. It's on the property of what's called the Observatory. It's a vacation rental and event space. Matty Bowling, the guy who owns the place, installed this phone booth, told us it used to be at his dad's restaurant in Indiana. He brought it out here. This is private property, but Matty said, you know, he's cool if hikers stroll by and they want to take a photo with the phone booth. And yes, there is a payphone inside, and no, it does not work. I feel like our coverage of tonight's presidential debate is really bringing Next viewers together. Folks are united in the fact that Marshall and I don't know what we're talking about. Rob writes, did I just hear you say that both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are vigorous men? That I did. I said they're vigorous guys for being in their mid-70s. Rob writes, have you seen Trump on a bike or a ramp or drinking a glass of water or making any sense while speaking? Whereas George agrees with him, writes, Kyle, if you and Marshall both think that Biden and Trump appear to be equally healthy and vigorous, please quit your jobs. Biden is several steps behind. This portends well that tonight we are going to bring America together in watching this debate. I hope you do watch. This is the future of our country. We will be on at 9 and 10 tonight trying to sift through the barrage of lies that we expect to hear. And as always, see you back here next time.